Mad Men comes back April 7th, I believe.
Check out our TV cast because Justified is heating up.
Yeah, Justified's getting good. We do a weekly general TV where we're discussing currently Girls, Justified. We talk a little bit of House of Cards. We're going to talk about a little bit of The Americans this week, something Jim and I sampled over the weekend. Don't forget the boys, the Personal Arrogance crew out of Seattle. This week they talk about 3D printed meat and leather, missions to Mars, franchise combat, where they talk about what franchises would be good for a Mortal Kombat treatment. Like, DC versus Marvel or Capcom versus Disney.
SNK or
they
whatever.
do, must-see TV lineup, Friends versus Seinfeld. It's pretty funny. And Jesse opens the What the Fuck Files. Also, Because Show, Geraldine, who donated to Kindle Fire, Amy and Susan this year have follow-ups about female ejaculate and money advice. Again, their show is not to be missed. And finally, Up Yours Downstairs goes on a brief hiatus, but next week they'll be back with a Season 3 wrap-up cast for Downton Abbey, and then we'll see what they have in store for their bi-weekly or their bi-monthly hiatus schedule, where they talk about all kinds of Victorian Edward stuff, or Edwardian England stuff.
Yes. Good stuff.
Yep.
All right, let's get to the listener feedback. The moment they've all been waiting for. First person who writes in, and I'm going to give him credit for everybody who said this, is Zachary Gray. He says, Rick is from King County, Georgia in the show. He's only from Cynthiana, Kentucky in the book.
Yep.
So
we got, probably the most feedback we've ever got on something like that. So don't feel bad, and we would have to sit there and tell probably 20 different names if we gave credit to everybody.
Yeah, and we've made a lot of boneheaded mistakes, and this was the biggest. So,
in recent memory, I'm not prepared to say it's the worst mistake I've ever made.
Tom from the D says, even as a huge anti-Michonne fan, I have to say she kind of redeemed herself a bit. But why did it take 3/4 of a season for the writers to learn how to write her character? Why was Rick shocked when there were no weapons in the armory? Wasn't that the same place that he raided in episode 1? And again, why can no one seem to hit a human target but are expert snipers when it comes to walkers?
I want to say
Morgan has become a badass.
I want to directly address that. I would say it's much easier to hit a walker than a person.
Yeah, there are no evasive maneuvers.
Yeah, so I think that's way exaggerated, but it makes sense conceptually. It's ridiculous the amount of headshots they pull off from moving vehicles and on the run and whatnot. But as long as they're consistent,
in the season 2,
and it also goes along with the theme that the living are much more dead and dangerous than the dead. And the show is kind of going to great pains to show us that.
Good point. Ryan says, "Hey guys, in your season 3 preview podcast, you discussed what you were hoping to see with the upcoming season. I agree with you, Jim, when you said, if I remember correctly, that you wanted to see more details that address how the zombie apocalypse is affecting life generally, not just within the immediate circumstances of our group." And he says, this episode scratched that itch for me a bit. Still very interested in the broader view of the zombie apocalypse. I wish there was more of that element. Also, I think the zombies as a plot device are starting to lose their impact a bit. The show needs to do more to remind the audience of their connection as former humans. Season 1 seemed to have more of that, like the scene where Morgan's wife and child... the scene with Morgan's wife and the child zombie that picks up the doll.
Oh, so creepy. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Totally
Season 1 was chock full of that, and then... I don't know what happened. Season 2 derailed us, and then Season 3 has been mostly action, right?
Well, yeah. And I think also the problem is we switched showrunners. I think Frank Darabont was very interested in showing that side. And AMC wasn't so interested. So we went to the more...
there was kind of a backlash when they started to go overboard with that part of it. And granted, they weren't doing a good job. Season 2 was a steaming pile of crap as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
But they were trying to explore those themes. And Season 3, they were like, all right, let's just fix this show and make it much more action-oriented.
Yeah, and I think that I like the direction Darabont went. I think that, the consensus seems to be he just doesn't know what to do with a weekly TV show. That once you get
Yeah, that's true.
off of a particular plot line, he starts losing how to connect all this stuff together. But I do miss the character studies and those kind of human moments with the zombies.
Yeah. Bill says, I don't think I've swung from thinking an episode was pure junk to then thinking it is one of my favorites. Actually, giving Michonne lines and a bit of character really dug this episode out of the screamer pits and gave me hope for the series. Michonne is the most interesting character in Walking Dead comics, and it has been so upsetting to see her given so little chance to shine. She is Walking Dead's Omar Little, a larger black character who is just flat out fun to watch. He says she can teleport in and out of bars with impressive speed. She carries a sword. She might be Nightcrawler the next time I think of it. Yeah, that quick cut. Until now, character was painfully flat and silent to a silly degree, but it is a testament to the Niagara River's chops that she grabbed hold of the few opportunities she's afforded to give Michonne life. The conversation with Andrea at prison being one, helping Carl and convince her ready with Rick at the episode's close. Let's hope this is the start of a trend and a little prune-faced mutant mouth can be gone for good.
Yeah, I don't really want her to see her go back. I hope this is the turning point because it didn't take much for us to kind of start falling in love with her.
Yeah. I think that there's a lot to her character that we still need to explore. I mean, obviously she hinted at that at the end of this episode, but we need to see it. Levi Jeans writes in, I gotta say this was one of my favorite episodes since the pilot. It highlighted the best storytelling mechanisms of The Walking Dead, especially the intro and outro. The small sign left behind for Aaron at the outset serves as a nice little artifact, followed by the bracelet on the zombie, reminding us that there are hundreds of stories untold in this universe. That's a really good point. And this kind of goes back to what I was saying with like the Lostian aspects of the show. I like that they are hinting at least a little bit. There's more going on than just Rick, the governor, and Tyrese at this point.
Right. Yeah, I mean, even like the governor finding that there's this, small detachment of National Guardsmen that are out there trying to survive. Thousands of stories are happening like that all the time.
Yep. He goes on, the whole episode was quiet, evenly paced, and didn't try to be flashy. It played with interesting themes like the coward inheriting the earth and Carl's motivations with his sister. It doesn't have to be a 6-episode arc involving half-assed tension or unrealistic, complex tactical situations between poorly developed villains and Rick's pendulous mental state. I couldn't agree more. He says the final moments were a perfect wrap-up, bringing it back around to the opening and that backpack. Poor bastard didn't make it, but hey, on the bright side, more supplies. Jeff writes in, once again, Morgan survives to see another day. What are the chances that he has a change of heart and makes his way to the prison to help Rick with the governor, or is Morgan too busy playing house with Howard Hughes?
So we're out of comic book territory, so this is not a comic spoiler. I would be shocked if we do not see him come back. Like, if I'm...
How are we going to see that? I mean, he's an hour away by car, right?
Yeah.
How's he going to get to the prison? Rick couldn't tell him they were at the prison, right?
I think one of two things will happen. He did mention that they're at the prison. So, like, how many...
He
Yeah, he said, why don't you come back to us? We got a prison. And before he could say where we're safe, he says, oh, is that where your wife died?
Yeah.
So,
and I see all the guns, yep.
How many large prisons can there be in that area of Georgia? So there's one vector, and also I wouldn't put it past Rick coming back. Like, look, before we move on, or like, there's this debate about whether they should leave the prison or not. Should they do that? I could see him early next season. I'm just saying that as a showrunner, as a new showrunner. By the way, the person who wrote this episode, which I'm going to look up when you read the next comment, they're actually running
Scott Gimple.
Scott Gimple. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh.
Why?
Man, I thought the Villigan was a good nickname, but you can't get much better than Gimpable.
Gimpable?
The Gimp Pimple.
Okay.
Anyway, this is why we never get official interviews with anybody.
Yeah.
But if I'm Scott, I'm thinking, man, 2 of the best episodes ever have had this dude Morgan in it. I'm going to find he's not dead. I'm going to find a way to bring him back.
Yeah. I mean, after seeing that performance, why wouldn't you?
Indeed.
Ferzan writes in, he says, man, the Backpacker, just an incredibly powerful representation of what the group has become. I mean, Rick was telling Carl how we have to be accepting of Michonne, and then just screwing over that guy was kind of weird, but whatever. Good job.
Yeah.
Morgan's reappearance and his background and its effectiveness is entirely due to the fantastic performance from the actor. Wow, what a powerhouse. At this point, I wish he would become a main character, but with Tyrese in the show, it's just not possible in the physics of the Walking Dead universe.
Right on.
Oh, boy. Michonne and Carl's interactions were very well done. Kudos to the writers, though I couldn't help but laugh at the fact that Michonne is a better parent to Carl here than Rick or Lori ever were. When Morgan went up to Rick's dead wife with zombie wife, he couldn't shoot, who later ate his child. I was like, yes! Snap out of it, Rick. You have it good comparatively. That's a really good point, you know?
Right.
Who else has their family around other than Herschel, who's lost most of his?
Right. No, I mean, that's a solid point.
Yeah.
And I think that's, didn't someone call that Lori on some of her bullshit? Was it Carol? Who's, because
yes.
She was trying to basically play the, look, I understand we're all going through lives. Like, oh, you who got your awesome husband back and your child back and no one that you really cared about has died.
Yep. And you got a boyfriend on the side.
Yeah, right.
KB writes in, as we approach the Rick versus Governor showdown, I'm expecting a solid showdown, but not a truly gripping one. A major reason is because I don't think the show has done enough to make us revile the Governor.
Really?
For one, the Governor needs to be way less redeemable than Merle, who is now tolerated by the prison crew and probably most of the audience. But when you compare their record, the Governor doesn't come away as that much more of an asshole. They both participate in killing those soldiers. The Governor humiliated Maggie while Merle humiliated and beat Glenn. Merle tries to kill Michonne on the Governor's orders. The Governor promotes weird zombie arena fights, and Merle is a willing participant. And he kind of goes on there. He says, to distinguish him as a real bad guy, I think they should have played up his sadism more regularly. And that's a pretty good point, right? I don't feel like I should feel, which is that the Governor is the most despicable person that we've seen in this show. Because I don't know that he's that much worse than Merle, honestly.
Who's more Okay, so you think Merle's more despicable than the Governor? In
some ways, certainly, yeah.
And you got a guy following orders versus the guy giving orders, and you've got the zombies and the heads, and I don't know.
Versus being a flaming racist.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know. The stuff with his daughter, I think it was KB who pointed this out in another part of the email that I couldn't include, but because it got a little spoilery. The thing with the daughter didn't do much to serve that because it kind of made him more sympathetic.
Right.
And I understand that they were kind of trying to play that angle, but at the same time, it doesn't work as this arch nemesis if you're kind of feeling bad for the guy, too.
True.
I think that's what KB's trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they could have gone a little bit further. I think that also you got to realize they're basic cable.
Yeah,
this is like they can't in the comic books. Of course, they go much further, and Michonne's confrontation with the Governor is a lot more epic. But they just can't show you gouge. You can't take the knife that you shoved up a dude's ass and gouge out your dude's eye in basic cable. You can shove a shard of aquarium glass through that eye. So they're giving us as good as we got. He's basic cable. He's basic cable psychotic.
Gotcha. Jake writes in, my email is mostly about the return of Pistol Rick. Have you ever noticed every time Rick speaks, he must clutch his pistol or his belt? It's one of those things where once you see it, you can never unsee it. Well, thanks a lot, Jake, because I looked at it and I cannot unsee it.
Is that like the Captain Picard uniform adjustment?
Yeah, exactly.
You stand up, you got to tug that uniform.
Well, it totally reminds me of Raylan from Justified. Every time he stands there, he's got his hand near his gun.
Hey everybody, Aaron here. So a funny thing happened about right here in the cast, and I don't know if it's Skype or something on my end of the hardware, but the sound quality went to shit. Like total shit. It sounded like two robot washing machines fucking Gemini's voice. It's completely unlistenable garbage, and it spans from about here to right as we were about to go into spoiler section. So we lost about 20 minutes of feedback. I apologize to anyone who's affected, but there's nothing I could do to make that audio listenable. So just inserting this so the abrupt cut doesn't seem quite so abrupt. And we'll try to do better next time. And I'm going to return you to your normally scheduled podcast about to enter into the spoiler section.
That's it. Let's get the spoilers, man.
That was quick. All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening, and we will see you either in the spoiler section or next week. Until then, I'm Jim.
I'm Aaron. We're back for the spoiler section. We don't have any.
Stole my thunder.
We don't have any. Well, I knew you'd try to kick it to video. We don't have video because you're coming in on the audio feed that the video would normally come in. And as we mentioned last week, that's the dumbest thing that we do on the podcast, and that's saying a lot. So we don't have an exciting audio preview of next week. Do we have some spoiler feedback that we can consider?
We do. Normally you read this, but I assume.
Yes.
I'm going to be reading it.
You assume correctly, sir.
Okay. Matthew S. has an email that says, has anyone else got the feeling that Andrea will take Tyrese's spot on the chopping block? To accomplish the pain experience in the comic, the victim has to be close to Rick along with Michonne. TV Tyrese isn't close to either. Andrea fits this part. Dale's storyline is gone, and she doesn't really serve much more of a role other than a couple sniper kills that, as can be seen, apparently can be accomplished by anyone in the TV group.
I like that idea. Not necessarily that I'm ready for Andrea to die, but it does make sense in light of that. And if I have to choose between Tyrese and Andrea, I'm going to pick Tyrese pretty much every time, all the time.
Wait, what?
If I have to pick, didn't he say that Andrea's taking Tyrese's place in the chopping block?
Yeah, that's what he's wondering if that will happen.
And I'm like, I'm all for that because not necessarily I'm anti-Andrea, but if I have to choose between Andrea and Tyrese, I'd like Andrea to go.
Really? So you want Tyrese to stick around more than a developed character?
I don't think she's that developed, honestly. I think she's regressed. They had her in a good spot towards the end of Season 2. I tried to defend her in Season 3. I think the lot she did was defensible, but she's just not coming across very likable, and I certainly don't think she's as good an actress as, Jesus Christ, Tyrese guy, my boyfriend. Coleman. Dennis?
Get out of here.
I don't know.
Anyway,
I have to hand in my...
Goes on, I also see Beth as Laurie's replacement for the final fall of the prison/governor. Someone has to cause the governor's troops to turn on him, and Beth seems to always have that baby on her hip.
Chad! It's Dennis Wise from The Wire, but he's played by Chad Coleman. Anyway.
Chad Coleman.
Yes.
Yeah. So what do you think of the idea that Beth is going to be Laurie's replacement for taking out the governor? I don't know anything about that. I haven't read the comics that far.
Beth as Laurie's replacement for taking out the governor. Laurie does not take out the governor. So who gets taken out?
Yeah, not taking out the governor, but causing his troops to turn on him.
Yeah, and she could be holding Judith. She'd be shittily holding Judith, the dead baby Judith that she killed from her shitty baby handling skills, and the governor shoots her. Yeah, I could see that. That would be, it seems like that Kirkman is a fan of basically sticking to the plot but throwing us some curveballs. And substituting Tyrese for Andrea would be his style. Substituting Beth with Laurie would be straight up. Yeah, I'm actually going to be very surprised if one of those two doesn't come true because they're both solid.
Yeah.
They almost seem obvious when they just throw them out there. So good work. Good work. Quality speculation.
Jason P. says, "Whoa, was that the, dare I say it, incredible episode of television? And it happened to be Walking Dead? Color me impressed, Scott Gimple." I'm just going to continue to say his name until you stop laughing every time I say it.
Yeah, well, you're going to be waiting a while.
He goes on, "I'm sure you got this a lot by now, or you already know, but Scott Gimple wrote this episode of Walking Dead. He is also the showrunner for Season 4 next year, so if this is a sign of things to come, I'm excited. But this whole thing wouldn't be possible without Lenny James' stellar acting."
Hell yeah.
I know a lot of people say this, but his emotional rant at Rick last night made me tear up a bit. I read the spoiler, and I feel like it didn't stop the impact of the scene at all. I was actually curious if Morgan was just going to say that his wife killed Dwayne because he failed to shoot her, or if maybe we'd get a flashback and get to see her kill him. But Lenny James blew me away with the story, the detail, and the emphasis. Felt so real, almost like it really happened to him, and he was literally breaking down.
No.
Now the spoilers. I'm super excited for more Morgan. IMDb has him scheduled to appear again in episode 16.
Aha!
So hopefully that means he's joining the group, and we'll be along with them in season 4. I'd imagine so, since he becomes an important character, at least for Michonne later on. That is awesome.
Yeah, no, I'm super psyched because he does the way they handled this is a little different in the books. He goes back and finds Morgan, and Morgan's still kind of got the Dwayne. He's actually got Dwayne still alive. He's got chained up, kind of like the governor, because he can't bear to do that. So it's like they same kind of like Morgan's slightly crazy, but Rick kind of redeems him. And I was mad because I thought that arc was really good in the comic, but I gotta say, I think it played off even better in the TV show, and it was just a shot in the arm that the show needed.
Yeah, with you. Evan C. has some speculative spoilers here for an episode number 14 that he's titling Killer Within Part 2. His synopsis of the episode is as follows. It opens with an unidentified man in prison garb, hobbling around an exposed area of Woodbury. After dragging in multiple bags of deer corpses, he tosses rocks at some nearby walkers to catch their attention and lure them inside. Later on, a couple of passing townspeople, busy playing words with friends on their iPhones, are suddenly attacked and bitten by the walkers in broad daylight. As the rest of Woodbury panics, a half-naked governor emerges from his apartment with Andrea in tow. "How can this be happening?" he shouts, putting a round into the victim's head. As the walkers are killed and the dust finally settles, the unidentified man reveals himself. It's the prisoner Andrew, who is not dead after all, but actually undead. A scuffle quickly ensues between him and the governor, who fumbles his gun. The two stop fighting when elderly... The two stop fighting when elderly Mrs. McLeod picks it up and points it at the governor. Through some raspy and unintelligible moans, Andrew urges her to shoot him, but Mrs. McLeod changes her mind and decides to shoot Andrew again in the head. The town's new army watches in awe as she returns the pistol to the governor, proving once and for all that despite having severe arthritis, she can handle a weapon.
That's right. Tell me there's some other way to contribute, will ya?
That's amazing. I love that.
So 2 of the 3 spoilers is going to come true, I would say, at this point.
Two of the 3, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, that's it, man.
That's it?
That's it. We have no more feedback.
When you have a 20-minute spoiler to read, then the time flies by.
I know. It feels like we're just getting started.
All right, so we've got all our shit done. I say we hang it up and get on to the TV cast.
Sounds good. Thanks, everybody, for listening. See you.
Bye.